everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be making a DIY raised garden bed. There's lots of different reasons why a raised garden bed is beneficial, and I will leave down below in the description everything I used and additional information, so be sure to check down there if you are interested. But one of the main reasons why I want a raised garden bed is because I have a pretty bad back. So when I have to bend over and tend to my garden, it ends up hurting my back. And then also, if you wanted to check for pests or bugs underneath the leaves, it's just a lot easier when you're looking under a leaf in a raised garden bed rather than trying to get all the way on the floor and underneath your plant to be able to see underneath it. So a few other reasons why a raised garden bed is extremely beneficial to your plants opposed to a ground level bed would be for drainage purposes. Here in New Orleans, it rains almost every single day. So not only do we have the rainwater, but we also have a gutter that goes right into our pre-existing garden bed right now. So whenever it rains, we have the flood from the rain as well as all of the rain coming down from the roof of our house. So basically our garden bed would just flood. So it was kind of overwatering those plants that don't like as much water. So having a raised garden bed will help maintain the water intake that you are putting into your bed. Also, when you add brand new plants or seeds, it's a lot easier for the roots and the plants to begin growing in a fresh, new tilled bed. So if you just plant your seeds or your plants directly into the ground, the soil that you have at home may be contaminated, so it's not going to have the proper nutrients, whereas when you do a brand new garden bed, you're adding fresh fertilizer, compost, soil, all of the things that your plants will need to thrive. And then the second big reason is if you're not tilling your soil really well before planting your seeds or your plants, then there won't be as much room for the roots and the plants to begin growing and move around in the soil. When you're putting fresh soil into a raised garden bed, there's a lot more space since the soil hasn't been compacted. Also, this is going to help keep out a lot of bugs that are going to be detrimental to your plants. So snails, slugs, those types of small insects that can climb right into your garden bed when it's on the ground will end up hurting your plant. Whereas if there's a tall raised bed, you may catch them before they go into your plants. And lastly, you will have fewer weeds if you do a raised garden bed because there's just so much soil that the weeds would have to come through that it's almost impossible that they would show through your garden bed. So with all of that being said, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into the video. There are a few different ways that you can do your bed. So we will be using cinder blocks in this DIY. You can also use wood, steel, or even recycled products as well. So definitely get creative when it comes to the outside of your bed. Here is my space before. This is where I was originally growing my veggies and herbs. Jalapeno, rosemary, okra, tomatoes, green onion, bell pepper, blueberries, strawberries, pineapple, jasper. But like I mentioned previously, the draining was so bad in this area that we did have to go with a different method. So here's how I'm growing my veggies and herbs now. They're all in mismatched planters all over my backyard, and I'm the type who likes to go outside every single day and check on them, water them. So to now be able to have a nice big raised bed where everything will be in one place is going to be really nice. So for this space, to start off, you do want to have a clean, clear area to work with. I do recommend if you have any type of grass here to remove that and just have a blank canvas to work with. I'm first going to measure out the space where I want the bed. That way I know exactly how much supplies I need in order to build it. When planning the area where you want your garden bed, I do recommend paying attention to the way that the sun hits this area. So of course, growing plants is all going to depend on what area you live in. So as far as my bed, I'm going to have it in direct sunlight, and I'm going to grow stuff that I know grows best in my zone. So I do recommend doing research on what plants grow best in your area and also how much sun those plants need. There are different apps that you can use on your phone to determine an exact location, how much sun that it gets per day. So definitely do all of that research before planning where you want your garden bed, because if you do end up putting it somewhere that maybe gets no sunlight and you're trying to grow plants that need all day sunlight, then your garden bed may not work in that area. This is optional, but you can add some newspaper or weed barrier to the bottom of your garden bed. This is going to ensure that no weeds or anything grows up through your bed. This is going to act as a barrier between what's pre-existing in your ground and your new garden bed. So once you've done that, we can begin placing our cinder blocks. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put these in the perimeter of the garden. If you are planning to do a larger bed and you want to maybe separate different sections, you can always add rows of cinder blocks in between. That way it kind of forms different little sections for maybe different types of fruits and vegetables. So this part is all based on what design you're looking to achieve with your garden bed. If you did want it to be extra secure, you can add some cinder block glue in between each row, but I'm going to skip that because not only are they super heavy, but they are flat, so I don't have any issues with water leaking or soil going through the cinder blocks. I am placing the cinder blocks to where they're flat all around so that when you are looking at it from the outside, you don't see the holes around the outside of the bed. If you didn't like the color of the cinder blocks, you can always paint them, and I recommend doing that before you go ahead and add your plants. So now that we've built the entire structure for our garden bed, we're gonna go ahead and fill it up with our soil and nutrients and everything that we need to feed our plants. So I will be using a mix of raised garden mix. I'm also gonna use some compost, top off the garden bed with something called Euro mix. And this is just going to add some extra nutrients for our veggies and herbs. And as far as placing the plants inside of the garden bed, I'm going to add my larger stuff in the back. So I do have a trellis there from my pre-existing garden, so this is definitely going to come in handy for plants that are going to grow large or maybe that have vines. For the back of the bed, I want to have more of my cucumbers, tomatoes, squash, anything really big that needs a lot of space, or a trellis I'm going to have in the back. In the rest of the bed, I'm going to add all of the other plants and herbs that I have, so like basil, jalapenos, serrano peppers, all of the other plants that I want to grow I will have in this area. And I'm also going to take advantage of the holes in the cinder blocks. So in these, I'm going to grow plants that get pretty wild, so this will maybe tame them down and not allow them to get as big as before and really take up the entire bed. So for these, I'm going to grow thyme, lavender, oregano, rosemary, all of those plants that tend to get pretty large. I'm going to put in the 4 corners. You also want to leave one space next to it, and if it does end up getting big and some of it goes into this planter, I do have dirt in there as well so that it can grow another plant there. It's beneficial to have some type of pollinator plant in your garden. That way you do get bees and different pollinators that will come and pollinate your veggies and herbs. So this one that I have here is called a Mexican heather. So that is how I placed my plants. All I need now are plant tags to put on the plants so I know exactly what's growing. And until I get something that I can reuse, I'm just going to use popsicle sticks, which is something I've used for years now. And you can't add some type of irrigation system if you don't trust yourself with watering your plants enough. So for this, I recommend using a drip system. These tend to be extremely inexpensive, and there's also the option of adding a timer to it so you can have it go off at the same time every single day and you don't have to worry about watering your garden. I'm so happy with how the raised garden ended up coming out, and now I have lots more space to grow more plants and for my pre-existing plants to just thrive and house so much more room than they did before. Definitely leave your suggestions and tips and tricks down below in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys because I am not a professional at all, and I'm just experimenting and playing around with plants just to see what works best for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye guys.